Hi, once again, a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet again another BMAC Live online webinar with me, Calvin. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, to those who just joined us, if you have any questions you want to talk about, you want to ask our speakers for today, feel free to type in the question in the chat section. Of course, we're going to have a dedicated Q&A at the end of today's session. So once again, I'm Calvin, the Senior Marketing Manager from BMAC. And in case you're wondering, BMAC is a technology company in healthcare and sports, headquartered in Singapore with offices across Southeast Asia. We have offices in Malaysia, Thailand, Hong Kong, and as well as China. So our mission at BMAC is to provide technologies to enable our customers to either educate, treat, care, and realize their fullest potential in healthcare and sports. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're feeling really honored because we have a special speaker coming from BK Medical to talk about BK Fusion with us. So today's topic is Prostate Fusion Biopsies with BK Fusion. So if you're wondering what BK Fusion is, well, BK Fusion is a fast, flexible, and effective MRI-ultrasound fusion prostate biopsy solution. So today we'll learn two things. We're going to understand what BK Fusion is, learning about its features, and more importantly, we need to know the differences between the traditional biopsy as compared to BK Fusion. And with that, it gives me a great honor to invite our speaker for today. Please help me to welcome Kota Rohin Kumar, the International Product Specialist from BK Medical. Hi, Rohin.
Hi, Kelvin.
How are you feeling today?
Absolutely excited.
Exciting. And you are joining us from India, I believe.
Yes, I'm joining from India.
All right. So I think all our audience are looking forward to listen to you and understand what BK Fusion is all about. And once again, if you have any questions that you would like to ask Rohin throughout the session, feel free to type in into the chat section. With that, Rohin, I'll pass the session to you.
Yeah, thank you, Kelvin, and hi, everyone. Good afternoon once again. Before I jump into today's topic, uh, from BK Medical, we'd like to thank BMAC for organizing this amazing session. And with no further delay, let's start talking about today's topic, BK Fusion. So, BK Fusion uh, fuses a pre-exam multiparameter prostate MRI on real-time ultrasound images. So when I say that, MRI prostate multiparametric MRI images are gold standard to identify prostatic lesions, and ultrasound gives you a real-time guidance. So when you fuse this real-time these two modalities, you can accurately target lesions identified on MRI images. And also, fusion reduces the risk of missing high-grade tumors during the biopsy, and it also helps you to identify understaging tumors so that your patient can be kept on active surveillance. So, talking about BK Fusion is fast and intuitive. It maintains control, it gives you the control, it gives you unmatched image quality, and it is a one integrated system. So during course of my presentation and also this session, we let's understand how BK Fusion is fast and intuitive, how it gives you the control of entire procedure, how our image quality will help you to do a confident biopsies, and also how having a one integrated system is advantageous in your overall. So let's talk about you know our BK Fusion. BK Fusion is a advanced generation MRI technology, MRI fusion technology. It has a very easy clinical workflow, and the workflow would be you can easily import the MRI data and you fuse data with our exclusive predictive fusion. What is predictive fusion? I'll talk about it during my next slides. And once you fuse MRI and ultrasound view images and you do the biopsy, so you have only three simple steps to do. One is input data, and the second one is to fuse MRI and ultrasound images using the predictive fusion, and then you biopsy with confidence. These are all the simple steps. So, to when you look at the other conventional fusion workflow. During other conventional fusion workflow, first MRI images will be imported into the system. And once the MRI images are imported, ultrasound image and ultrasound transducer will be calibrated to match the coordinates. Once it is done, a 3D ultrasound acquisition is done, which you call it as a 3D sweep is taken to acquire 3D prostatic images. And on 3D prostatic images, they'll ask you to contour the ultrasound. So once you have contoured ultrasound data, you have a MRI data, then you will fuse it. So fusion will have a three different methods. One would be a rigid fusion, a rigid registration. Other one is a elastic registration. They either follow rigid registration or the elastic registration. Once the registration and fusion is done, then they look for errors, and the errors are taken care. Then you do a biopsy. So one import calibrates taking a 3D sweep, contouring, fusion, and correction. So there are 5 steps. You are doing all these 5 steps when patient is on the table and waiting for a procedure to be get done. So imagine during the procedure, a patient movement is possible. Being a prostate biopsy, patient can move, or you use electromagnetic trackers in fusion technology. So even the tracker can move. And also, as an ultrasound user, you would like to change depth or gain of the ultrasound. So when any of these parameters have changed, you might have to start the procedure from taking a 3D sweep again. But what happens with a 3D bkFusion? So in bkFusion, during the conventional workflow, whatever the steps have, 6 steps have reduced, and bkFusion offers an easy and familiar workflow to make prostate biopsy procedures as efficient as possible using the right approach for you. So you can do a fusion biopsy with transperineal. It can be a freehand approach or stabilized approach or a transrectal side fire and end fire approach. See, when images are fused here in bkFusion, urologists can simply check to confirm the alignment and then proceed with familiar biopsy workflow. So this would require minimal extra steps to do the prostate biopsies. So here you don't need to do a contouring of the prostate on ultrasound images. You don't need to segment the ultrasound images. So this makes our fusion workflow faster. So let's see what makes bkFusion intuitive. So we bkFusion offers a unique rigid registration workflow that reorients the supine MRI before patient is on the table. So this predictive fusion increases the fusion accuracy by eliminating contours and segmenting the prostate on the ultrasound images. Once the reoriented images are imported, the user, in here this case a urologist, simply check the alignment of the fused images and proceed with a familiar biopsy workflow. Now we have a short video here. How a predictive fusion works. So Kelvin, can we play our video here?
I'd like to introduce you to something new and unique in fusion, Predictive Fusion for Prostate Fusion Biopsies. Every traditional registration process, whether rigid or elastic, follows these same steps in this same order. First, 2 images are required. In this case, an MRI before the biopsy and an ultrasound at the beginning of the biopsy procedure. These images are then fused and aligned to each other. During the final alignment stage, registration parameters are adjusted until as many errors are corrected as possible. This process is often laborious and takes time with patient on the table, which can compromise accuracy, procedure length, or both. The major challenge is that all of these approaches attempt to correct the errors at the end of the process, after they are hidden and embedded in the images. Predictive Fusion changes all of that. By completely reversing the registration process, Predictive Fusion allows you to reduce uncertainty, correcting errors before they're made. Prior to the biopsy, the radiologist uses reslicer to prepare the MRI for fusion. By reorienting the supine MRI to match the prostate biopsy orientation, the greatest source of registration uncertainty is removed, saving biopsy time while increasing accuracy. When the biopsy begins, the prostate MRI contours are overlaid on the live ultrasound image, providing you a guide to match. And since all of this happens before capturing an ultrasound image, it means that registration uncertainty can be corrected before it becomes an error. Predictive Fusion was designed to closely fit your traditional biopsy workflow, requiring minimal extra steps and saving you time while providing you a fusion that you can trust.
So, thank you, Kelvin. So, to explain you the how a predictive fusion works. So, predictive fusion works with it starts with a memory slicer, and once the reslicer so the reslicer will help you to remove greatest source of uncertainty during the registration. So this would be a MRI would be acquired, while see the greatest source of uncertainty would be the positional difference here. So when you look at the MRI acquisition and the ultrasound acquisition during the prostate biopsy, Kelvin, can we switch it to the video? Yeah. So if you see acquisition methods of MRI and ultrasound, so the MRI is acquired while patient is in the supine position, but a prostate biopsy is done while patient is in the lithotomy position or he is in the left lateral position. So these positional differences, when we are trying to do a cognitive biopsy or any other fusion biopsies, it can cause geometrical errors. So we in bkFusion, we use this predictive fusion to correct this error. So with help of MIM visualizer, MRI contours will be reoriented to match the prostate as it you are seeing in this video, and it will be imported onto the ultrasound images. Reoriented contour data imported and displayed over the ultrasound. So it will allow you to match the ultrasound images, the prostate images on the ultrasound. So this is how our predictive fusion works, which makes our system intuitive. Uh, Kelvin, can we switch into presentations? Yeah, thanks. Talking about next steps, one integrated system. So BK Fusion is a one integrated system, so everything possible within one system. So you don't need any other system. And here within the system, a simultaneous display of MRI and real-time ultrasound images is possible on one monitor. And also, along with the BK fusion, you can do a targeted prostate biopsies. Also, you can switch it to a normal ultrasound to perform your standard 12-core biopsy. So this will allow you to do a targeted fusion biopsy as well as your 12-core regular biopsy, standard biopsies. And also the same ultrasound, with the help of our specialized transducers, it can be used for other applications such as urology, neuro, and HPV applications. So these are all the advantages when you have a single integrated system. So BK Fusion works with an integrated solution. Getting into our next one, it gives you as a control, it gives you entire procedure as a urologist. So you control the entire procedure and can freely adjust ultrasound gain and depth, or choose in different planes to scan so that you can target appropriate area. So you can choose a transfer section or a sagittal section or an end fire section to target appropriate area without need of resweep or recalibrating the entire image. And BK Fusion also, allows you to adjust the contours if they become distorted because of the transducer pressure on the prostate, or possible patient movement during the prostate biopsy procedure. And what could happen? PK Fusion will also give you a reporting structure with the 3D models with biopsy core location, screenshots, and other options easily included in your documentation, so that you can send reports back to a referring physician and you can give exactly BAP's core location. Once the report comes back from the pathology, you can actually identify the cancer detection zone with the help of PK Fusion. Getting into our talking about our ultrasound system, so I'll just do a quick summary here. BK Fusion is an integrated solution. It takes minimal space in the OR. Both TR, TP, template, and freehand biopsies are possible. Our image quality is absolutely unmatchable. We are the market leaders when it comes to prostate imaging. And freehand movement of the transducer is possible. MRI contour data can be imported onto the ultrasound with various methods. It can be your CD or DVD or cloud or back server, and it works with predictive fusion. When you use a predictive fusion, error correction is done before fusing the images, and it has a quick three steps workflow, which is fuse, import, fuse, and do a biopsy. No need to do contouring of the ultrasound images, no need to take 3D sweeps, and even if the patient moves, you can actually do a quick realignment and you can freely change ultrasound parameters such as depth and gain. Talking about our ultrasound systems, we with our high spatial resolution and temporal resolution images, it allows you to easily identify the lesion when you fuse. And talking about bk5000, which is a premium surgical ultrasound, so it is designed to be inside the OR. It is a mobile system with small footprint. It can fit in the minimal spaces, and we offer wide range of advanced specialized transducers for different applications such as urology, neurosurgery, and HPB. And along with this advanced technologies, our systems have also has advanced features like vector flow imaging, elastography, contrast imaging, and more. BK Fusion and BK3000 and BK5000 are compatible with BK MRI ultrasound fusion, and we have advanced 3D technologies. And all our systems have extremely sensitive color and power Doppler functions. And BK Fusion allows you to choose your method of approach with the freedom. So you can either choose transperineal freehand, or stabilized transperineal approach, or you can choose a transrectal side fire or end fire approach. In when you choose transperineal you can do either freehand or stabilized method. You would require a transperineal transducer, an electromagnetic tracker, and a sensor on the transducer to identify location of the probe. This you would require when you do a transperineal freehand. When you do a transperineal stabilized, you would require a transducer and the Civico EX3 stepper. Coming to transrectal biopsies, you can do it in either side fire or end fire approach. In both the cases, you would require an electromagnetic tracker and a sensor on the transducer to identify the location. So here is a brief about our BK Fusion. And next we have a couple of videos coming up. One video, the first video explains you how contouring is done on DX Lite, MIM DX Lite Symphony. And second video explains how a transperineal stabilized biopsy is done using BK Fusion. So, Kelvin, can we play our first video of contouring MRI using DX Lite?
During this video, we will show you the workflow of contouring the prostate in Symphony DX Lite using a Welcome to the DX Lite instruction video. During this video, we will show you the workflow of contouring the prostate in Symphony DX Lite. Please be aware that this training video does not replace user guides, instructions for use, technical instructions, etc. For more information regarding BK Medical products, please visit our website at bkmedical.com. Double-click the MIM icon on your computer to open the MIM DX Lite software. During this video, we will show you the workflow of contouring the prostate in Symphony DX Lite using a 4-view multi-parametric MRI. First, select the MRI series that you want to use for the contouring. Make sure your MRI data is stored in the primary patient list. If not done already, navigate to the PACS in the Patient Data Source section and search for the patient. Select the desired MRI series and click the Send To tab on the right side in the DX Lite software. Click this workstation to send the selected series from the PACS to your local workstation. The selected series will now appear in the primary patient list. Double-click the primary patient list to see the patient you want to contour. Select the desired MRI series from the list. The axial T2 sequence, coronal T2 sequence, and diffusion-weighted image and apparent diffusion coefficient are the 4 recommended series to use in this workflow. Use the Control key on your keyboard to select all required sequences. Now select the 4 MRI, MP MRI workflow and click the Open Workflow button. A new window will open. Double-check that the selected series matches the series description. Mostly, the series will be matched up with the description at the installation of your DX Lite software. If this is not done, or the selected images do not match the tag it has been given, you will manually need to assign a series from the drop-down list. In this case, the series description matches the target. Click Confirm to continue. The workflow now opens. A small notifications box will appear on the right top of the screen. This notification box will guide you through the different steps needed for the contouring. Note that it's extremely important not to hit the Cancel Workflow button. It is also important not to hit the Resume Workflow button before you have finished everything described in the notification box. Once the session is open, instructions inside the notification box will describe which steps to take. First, contour the prostate and targets. Close the notification box by hitting the little arrow on the top right. The 4 selected MRI series are now visible on the screen. In the upper left corner, we have the axial T2 series. On the lower left, we have the coronal T2 series. On the upper right is the ADC series. And on the lower right, we have the DWI series. Now we use the axial T2 to contour the prostate. The anatomical landmarks are best defined on the axial T2, so this is the preferred series to contour the prostate. Double-click the axial T2 to enlarge the image. You can zoom or pan the image by clicking the Zoom or Pan tool on the taskbar, drag to adjust the image size, or to pan the image. To start the actual prostate contouring, make sure the prostate contour is selected. Select the 2D brush. Your cursor will now appear as a brush. You can change the brush size by right-clicking and dragging. Navigate to the mid-gland. You can scroll through the slice by either using the scroll ball on your mouse or by using the arrow up and arrow down keys on your keyboard. Now start contouring the prostate. Select and hold down when you are contouring the outer borders. Once you have closed the contour and you release, it will automatically fill the contour. Please note that the border definition is the decision of the physician who does the contouring. Note that erasing contours is also possible. By bringing the brush outside of the contour, the brush borders will appear red, and it now functions as an eraser. Scroll through the slices and make sure you are contouring the entire prostate, including the full base and apex. In a regularly shaped prostate, it is possible to skip a few slices during the contouring process. You can now follow the contouring process on the sagittal and coronal views on the right side of the screen. When you have covered all of the gland, mid, base, and apex, you can use the Interpolate tool to auto-complete the contours on the slides you have skipped. Always review the interpolation after you have used the interpolation tool. Now that you have contoured the prostate, it's important to contour the lesions. Double-click the image to get back to the 4-view image. Select lesion 1 from the contour list and contour the lesion. For smaller contours, like lesions, you can use the 3D brush, which allows freehand creation and editing of 3D contours from any plane. Note that you can choose either sequence to contour the lesion. Most lesions are best visible in the DWI and ADC. The contour will automatically be transferred to the other sequences. When all lesions are contoured, you can click Resume Workflow in the Notifications window. Here we come to the reslicer. Adjust the reslicer parameter as necessary. The reslicer is an important tool as it is the main component of our predictive fusion. This step will correct for differences in patient position on MRI versus ultrasound. Click the middle of the virtual transducer and hold down. Drag the virtual transducer in the rectum and adjust the angle accordingly by dragging the arrow in the virtual transducer. The preferred angle is when the virtual transducer is parallel to the posterior wall of the prostate. Also confirm that the line in blue is aligned with the base slice of the prostate. Now, on the right image, scroll through the slices until you come to the largest part of the prostate. Drag the contours inside the prostate so that the lower part of the prostate touches the second grid line. It is important to confirm that the prostate is inside the grid. Once this is done, click the Next button until you reach the biopsy review section and then hit the Save button. A new pop-up window will appear. Here you can give it a series description. Click OK and it will save the session data. Note that this is the only valid way to save your contours. Once this is done, you can close the session. Click the Sessions button on the taskbar. Now click Close All Sessions. To transfer the contours, you should first go to the primary patient list. There, select the correct patient from the list and select its session. In the Send To menu on the right, you can choose the destination. When the system is set up to send to the remote patient list, MemCloud or PACS, you can select the destination by clicking its corresponding button in this menu. It is also possible to export to USB or CD by selecting the folder you want to export to. Click the desired destination and the transfer will begin. You have now learned how to use the MemDX Lite contouring software. Thank you for watching. For more information, please visit our website bkmedical.com or you can contact us at info@bkmedical.com.
So you just watched a video. That's the video which says how MRI contouring is done using a DX Lite, MIM DX Lite Symphony. And once you have contoured the MRI and you have gone to the next step where you have used reslicer to reorient supine MRI images to match, which would match on ultrasound images. So that is, you will have a virtual probe and you will reorient probes. That virtual probe should be parallel to a rectal wall so that you can reorient entire MRI images that would match prostate on the ultrasound. Now we have coming up a second video, which is demonstrated on the Phantom, which shows how to do a transperineal stabilized biopsies on a patient. So Kelvin, can we play our second video, which has a transperineal stabilized biopsies?
Welcome to our instruction video for bkFusion transperineal template biopsy. During the next 20 minutes, we will show you how to work with your bkFusion system and the different controls. This is the hardware needed for TP Fusion. First, we have the EX3 stepper, which is a track stepper that has a USB connection that connects to the BK system. On the stepper, you mount the cradle. In the cradle, you use the biplane transducer, the E14CL4B or 9048. And we are using the disposable grid 1 to 7, A to G 5 millimeters, and the stepper will be mounted onto a microtouch stabilizer. The first thing we need to do is fit the transducer into the cradle. So we open the clamp, then locate the pin on the transducer. Then locate the notch on the cradle. Then we slide the transducer with the pin into the notch on the cradle so that it stays in place during the procedure. Then we close the clamp and tighten the screw. Next step is to attach the cradle to the stepper. We slide it onto the rollers, then we rotate the cradle until we hear it click. Then we place the grid, tighten the screws, and make sure that the grid side, 1 to 7, A to G, and the BK letters in the top corner is facing towards the operator. The last step is to mount the EX3 stepper onto the stabilizer. Here we make sure that we slide the bracket from the stepper into the bracket on the stabilizer. We take it and slide it in and then tighten the screw on the side. This is what the screen looks like when you open the Fusion tab. The first thing that needs to be done when starting Fusion is importing the contouring data. This is done in the Advanced View tab. There are several different ways to import data. Either you can import directly from a USB drive or an external hard drive. You can also set it up to import from a local PAC system or from a remote patient list. You can also import from MemCloud, but only in the US. Please refer to your user guide for details on each of these methods. For our session today, we will be importing from a USB drive. To begin, click on the import on the bottom of the screen, then browse, select USB drive, select the desired folder, and then import all. So if you have multiple patients in the same folder, it will import the data for all of them. You will only need to do this process once. We can now see the patients and the pertinent information that have been imported here on the left-hand side of the screen. Please refer to the current user guide and quick guide for your BK system for additional information on connectivity. To start the workflow, click on Simple View, then Start Procedure. Then start typing the name or ID of the desired patient in the Patient Name or ID section. In this example, the patient's name is 10, so as soon as you start typing, the list will auto-populate. There is no need to fill out all of the information. The system will import it once you have selected your desired patient. You can also search by using the patient ID. In this example, the BK system has the license for both transperineal, and transrectal fusion. If you only have the license for one, then you will only have one of these options displayed. For this demonstration, we are selecting the transperineal biopsy and then click on Start Procedure. What we see here is that the workflow is divided into 4 steps. The first task is to select the correct grid that we are using for the procedure. In this demonstration, we are using the BK programmable 1:7 5 millimeters. Now click Next to move to the next section. Now the first step is completed. The next step is to fuse the MRI contours with the live ultrasound image. The first thing to do is verify that we have a stepper connection. The USB cable from the stepper should be plugged into the BK system. If there is a green check mark like you see here, then we have a good connection. If there is a red X, then you need to check the connection with the stepper. Next, on the ultrasound image, find the reference plane that matches the MR contours. This is done by stepping the transducer into the patient until a good match is found. Then move the MRI contour until there is a good match, like you see here. When you are satisfied that they are aligned, click on Sync Stepper. At this point, the MRI contours are fused with the live ultrasound images. So when you move the transducer, you can see that the contours will follow. It is important to understand that you do not need a perfect alignment at this point, because during the next steps, you will do additional fine-tuning of the contour alignment. So this is just the initial rough alignment that is done here. The next step will be what is called auto capture. This is where the actual ultrasound images will be automatically captured by the system. To do this, click on Auto Capture, then step the transducer into the patient until past the base of the prostate. Now step the transducer from the base to the apex, and as you will see on the bottom half of the screen, the actual slices of the ultrasound images are captured. Continue stepping toward the apex until the prostate and contours are no longer visualized. Next will be the realignment step. Click on the Realignment tab. On the screen, you can see the transverse image with the grid overlaid on top of the image, as well as a sagittal and a coronal view. Now we will further align the ultrasound images with the contours in 2 different planes to get a precise alignment. Today, we will start with the sagittal image. Place the crosshairs in the center of the sagittal image and double-click to enlarge it. Now you can adjust the contours to align with the ultrasound by moving the arrow over the Adjust Fusion tab, hold down the Select key on the keyboard, and adjust the contours by moving the trackball. When satisfied with the alignment, double-click on the sagittal image to return to the transverse image. Use the up and down arrows on the keyboard to scroll through the transverse slices to check the alignment. You can adjust the contours by clicking on the Adjust Fusion tab, holding the Select key down on the keyboard, and moving the trackball. There is also the option to rotate the contours by selecting the Rotation tab, holding down the Select key, and moving the trackball. As you review the slices, small alignment adjustments can still be made. Once you are satisfied with the alignment of the contours after review, click on the tab with the green flag, and that will move you to the next step in the workflow. Now that you have completed the auto capture and realignment, click the next button to move to the next step. Now you are ready to biopsy. You are now in the third phase of the workflow. On the top half of the screen, you will want to have a live sagittal image. Change the displayed plane by clicking this icon. Then step the transducer into the patient to get the entire prostate displayed. At any point, you can further adjust the contours by clicking on the hand icon, making the adjustments, and then deselect the hand icon. This is helpful during the exam, especially if your patient moves during the procedure. You can quickly adjust the contours as you go. On the screen now, the upper image is a live sagittal image, and the lower image is a captured transverse image. First thing you will want to do with the transverse image is locate the target or targets that you want to biopsy. Then we will find a point where we will actually want to do the biopsy, actually place the needle. At this point, you will want to target your region of interest and place a virtual core using the Smart Placement feature. This will provide you with a grid position, which in this example is C 3.0. This is the grid position where you will place the biopsy needle to take the biopsy. Next, you'll rotate the cradle so that you'll turn the transducer array toward the target in the sagittal view. As you rotate the cradle, you'll see that the line moves on the transverse image and that the virtual core will appear on the sagittal image. Keep in mind this is a virtual core that we are using to pre-plan where it is that we want to biopsy. You can see on the sagittal image that the virtual core is a solid green. This means that you have not actually done the biopsy yet. Once the biopsy has been done, we will document this by marking where the sample was taken. More on this in a few moments. The next step will be to prepare the biopsy needle and the biopsy gun. When ready, the biopsy needle is now introduced into the C 3.0 hole on the grid. You can now see the needle entering from the top right of the screen, and it will be stopped just prior to the target. Then the biopsy gun is fired, and next you will document where the biopsy was taken by placing the marker over the location. This is done by selecting and holding the select key down and moving the trackball on the keyboard. You can see that there is now a red portion on the marker, indicating that a sample has been taken from this location. After marking, remove the biopsy needle. And now we're ready for our next site. Using the up and down arrows on the keyboard, we can locate where the next target is located, which you can now see. You can pre-plan where you want to target using the Smart Placement feature again. In this example, it is placed at E2.5 on the grid. Then rotate the cradle until the red line intersects the marker. As you look at the sagittal image, you can see the virtual core. Now you can introduce the needle into the correct position on the grid, again with this one, E2.5. As done on the last sample, the needle is stopped just short of the lesion, and then fired, and the actual core is marked. and now this target has been successfully sampled. As an alternative workflow, biopsy sites can be chosen without using the Smart Placement feature. As seen prior, the lesion is located on the transverse image by scrolling up and down with the arrow keys on the keyboard. Once the lesion has been located, the probe and cradle are rotated until the line on the transverse image intersects the lesion and a grid position is identified. See 2.5 in this example. The biopsy needle is then introduced into the C2.5 location. Advanced until just outside the lesion, and then fired. After it is fired, the core location is recorded as done prior, and the biopsy needle is removed and ready to do another. At this point, if satisfied with your biopsies, click the next tab on the biopsy sampling section. This will now take you to the fourth and final section of the workflow. When done, click on Save. By saving, you will be able to come back to retrieve all of the details of this session. You can also choose to display the report and see all of the documentation for this particular biopsy procedure. After you have saved the session, you can always return at a later time to display the report if you choose. It does not have to be done immediately after closing the session. In the notifications sections you see on the screen, select BK Generated Biopsy Template and click OK. This will take you to the biopsy report. In the first part of the report is a summary of the samples that have been taken. It shows you the numbers of the samples, their grid position, the sectors, and that it was successfully documented with the red portion on the core marker, and which contoured suspected region of interest it was labeled as. These same parameters are also true for lesion number 2. As we scroll down, there is a schematic drawing of the prostate with a base, mid, and apical view. In the base view, we can see that the second sample was taken here. Note that the grid position is displayed, E2.5. In the mid view, no samples were taken. In the apex view, we can see this is where the first sample was taken. This information is helpful and useful as it helps you coordinate with the pathology reports, which we'll visit with here in just a couple of moments. In the next section of the report is a 3D representation of the prostate, and we can see the cores in a 3D view from the left side, anterior, right side, and posterior. After this, we have the actual ultrasound images with the cores marked. You can see the red at the end of the core marker indicating that a sample was in fact taken from this area. Next are all the transverse images from the auto capture. And then you come to this table. This table is where you can enter information that you receive after the pathology report comes back. There are several parameters that you can enter in here to help you coordinate your results with your actual biopsies. Things such as location, Gleason score, core length, cancer length, core length to cancer length ratio, and if there is perineural invasion. This is optional, but it's here if you choose to use it. Once you are done entering information and reviewing the report, you can save it. You can create a simple PDF by clicking here. It is being saved to the USB in this example. This report is then visible by using any PDF viewer on your computer. Note that the PDF is not editable once it is saved. It can also be saved as a structured report. This means that you save it within the Fusion software. It is possible to later edit the structured report. Finally, if you want to send a version of the report to a PACS system, you'll want to save it as an encapsulated PDF. This means that you are writing DICOM information on the file. So first you will save it locally on the BK system with the DICOM information on it, and then you can push this file to your PACS system. Once you're finished, close the report, and then you can close the session by clicking Sessions at the top of the page, then close all sessions, and click Yes when prompted, Are you sure? At this point, you are ready for a new patient. If you originally imported additional patients, you will not need to go through the importation procedure again. You can proceed directly to Start Procedure and begin typing the next patient's name and continue the workflow as we just described. Remember that this video does not replace user guides, instructions for use, or technical instructions. Always refer to the latest version of the user guide for probe preparation before the examination, as well as the proper care and cleaning of the probe post-procedure. You should also refer to the instructions for use for the Sibco stepper for proper infection control procedures before and after the examination. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to contact us using the information you see on your screen.
So that's the second video we have, which is a continuation of our first video. And I'll just recap what we have seen in the first video and what we have seen in the second video. In first video, we have seen how to contour MRIs on DX Light Symphony. After contouring using a reslicer, how do we reorient supine MRI images to match ultrasound images? Once these are matched, once these are resliced and reoriented, you will save the data. And in the second video, we have seen how to import the data into the ultrasound system. Once it is imported, and we have seen how to fuse an MRI data with the live ultrasound data. And once the fusion is locked, and how do you use a stepper and the stabilizer to do a prostate biopsy. Once you have finished your MRI fusion biopsy, we have seen how to generate a comprehensive report from where you have picked a biopsy core locations. You can also see a tabular column where it shows how many biopsies core are picked and what is the location. And also, once the report comes back, in the structured report, you can also include the Gleason score of the core, and also you can put the ratio, cancer detection ratio of the each core. So that's how that's what these two videos explains. That's a quick recap. So we have these two videos to show you for today. Now, Kelvin, it's all yours.
Thanks, Rohin, for the sharing. I think it's very in-depth, and I think the two video does give a good example or visualization for all our audience to see how BK Fusion actually works in action. All right, so with that, we'll move on to the Q&A session. Once again, for those who are viewing right now, if you have any questions to Rohin regarding to the contents that you've seen just now, feel free to type in the question in the chat section. So we're going to take up the first question here. Coming from FL. FL would like to ask, can a urologist be trained to do contouring and target segmentation him or herself?
Yep. So, can a urologist to be trying to do a contouring and target segmentation himself? Yeah, we have seen this, and we have installed so many systems for BK Fusion. So the thing is, if you can read an MRI image, a multi-parameter prostate MRI image, you can very well contour the MRI yourself, and you can very well target the ratio. So it's all something to do with how do you read multi-parametric MRI. So it has a learning curve. You have seen it on our DX Light Symphony, but it's very quick and easy to do a contouring thing on our DX Light Symphony. So it asks you a question like, how do you like how good you are reading a multi-parametric prostate MRI. So if you are good at it, you can easily do a segmentation and target lesion marking on the DXA axis.
Right, there you go. So FL, the short answer to that is yes, there is a learning curve, but I guess it's something possible. But of course, if you want to know more information, in fact, what you can see on the screen right now on the bottom right, there's a QR code. So all you got to do is actually
Uh-huh.
scan that QR code. It'll bring you to a contact form. You can then fill in whether you would like to schedule for a demonstration or you would like to request for our product information, or even you have just more further general inquiries in regards to BK Fusion. You can type in all the questions, and of course, our sales product specialist from BMAC will be getting in touch with you. So all you got to just scan the QR code on the bottom right hand side of the screen. Okay, so
Yeah,
let's see. We
Kelvin.
have next question. Yes.
Uh, Kelvin, I just have an add-on to the first question. So we have seen some installations, but initial days they have taken radiologist help to contouring. Once they have come over that initial learning curve, they started doing themselves the contouring. So they can take initial learning curve with the help of radiologist. So we have
Right.
seen couple of centers where it has been done. Initially, radiology support was there, and they moved independent to do a contouring and targeting lesion on the X-ray.
Right. I guess it also depends to the various establishment,
Exactly.
depending on processes. But I guess the short answer, whether can a urologist be trained? I guess yes, there is a learning curve.
Yes.
But again, is I guess subject to their respective hospitals in this case
Institution.
or clinics. I guess they may have different procedures and processes that will have in place. So yeah, all you got to do if you want to be more specific in questions, just feel free to scan the QR code and send in and get your our product specialist will then get in touch with you for more information. Okay, so next question we have coming in from Audrey. Hi, what are the advantages of using TP over TR?
Yeah. So we see a trend here. We see most of the urologists are moving from TR to TP. So I'll first talk about TR and then I'll tell you the advantages of doing TP. In TR procedure, the ultrasound probe and the needle goes through the rectum. So there is always chances of getting an infection. So the infectious rates, they have seen sepsis rates going up with the TR. So when you talk about TP, the transducer remains in the rectum, but the needle goes through the perineum. So the infectious, there is no question of infection. So the infection rates and the sepsis rates have been taken care. And looking at the cancer detection rates, in uh, transrectal ultrasound, the needle goes with an angle into the peripheral zone. But when you look at the TP, the transducer goes absolutely parallel to the peripheral zone and the prostate, which makes which gives you a better yield of anterior zones of the prostate and also peripheral zones of the prostate. So that is an advantage. It decreases your sepsis infectious rates, and also the yield will get better for the anterior zones of the prostate and peripheral zones of the prostate since your needle is going parallel to the prostate.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Rohim, for the answer. There you go, Audrey. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay, we have three more questions. Yeah. I'll pick the next one. This is coming from Cho Chuan Lim. Are there any successful case studies of using predictive fusion versus rigid fusion?
Yep. We recently have a study from Dr. Immerzel. So Dr. Immerzel practices in Amsterdam. So he recently published a paper where it says the when he used bkFusion with local anesthesia transperineal approach, the cancer detection rates were 84%. So the PIRAT score of these patients are PIRAT score 3 to 5, and his cancer detection rates are 84%. So it is a significant CDR percentage where you can say 84% is a significant CDR rate. So that is a success story we have, and the paper is widely available in the market. I can also share the link of the paper. It's Dr. Immerzel. He practices in Amsterdam. He has done most this paper was published with more than 1,000 patient data.
All right. Okay, so we have two more questions, Rohin. Next one that's coming in from YL31. How is the learning curve for urologists to pick up doing contouring and target segmentation? I guess this also related to an earlier question.
Exactly. This is related to the earlier question. And here we are from a fusion company, but as a MRI ultrasound fusion company, the solution which we provide, we also take initiatives on educating urologists on how to read an MRI images also. So 2 days back, we have done a similar webinar, how to read an MRI multi-parametric prostate MRI images. So we keep running these kind of webinars in our routine basis so that we educate our customers as well on the MRI, reading a multi-parametric prostate MRI, which would actually lessen their learning curve.
Right. And I guess actually YL31 has, I guess you did mention that earlier in your answer, but YL31 has a follow-up question. And what is the support level BK could provide on these aspects? I think earlier you were saying that you do conduct webinars. I suppose you also do training, in-person
Yeah.
training.
And we can also connect with the peer, like who are already using the system already with the multi-parametric MRI reading. And also we have a good application support team from BMAC, as well as we have a good application support from BK. So we can support in all sorts of things to a customer. And
Right.
we
And not to
keep
mention,
doing
I
this
guess
education.
the learning hub, I guess we get with all the
Yeah,
extensive amount of information and videos. Of course,
yeah.
it doesn't replace the actual uh, manual and instructions, but I guess it's a reference for potential users when it comes to BK Fusion.
and they,
Okay.
and also they can go to our website. In website we have an education tab. There they
Mm.
can see more webinar information on BK Fusions. We have done some 4 webinars, 3 to 4 webinars in recent times in the last 6 months.
Right. And again, of course, YL31, all you got to do is just scan the QR code on the bottom right hand side of the screen. It will bring you to an online form, put in your contact details. Our product specialist will then get in touch with you to explain a little bit more what kind of support that potentially BMAC can support, as well with BK Medical in this case, to fulfill your needs of your urologist or even radiologist in this case. We have one last question. Because I think we are coming to the end of the webinar, so we have one last question here. This coming from Angeli. What are the challenges local doctor faced? In this case, I guess I'm not sure you can speak for on behalf from Singapore. In this case, the doctors with the current practice of doing a TP.
The initial the challenges would be getting oriented to the images of TP. They have been doing a TR. The initial thing would be getting oriented to the TP, and the local anesthesia. So initially when you do a TP procedure, you might need to do a multiple punctures. A local anesthesia technique is one of the challenge which we have seen here. So that, like, we start doctors moving from GA to local anesthesia quickly after 5 to 10 procedures. They have start moving. So the major challenges of, like, getting oriented to the ultrasound images of TP transducer, transperineal transducer, and anesthesia application. This is where we have seen most of the challenges, and they can quickly overcome these two challenges. So they start with 5 to 10 procedures.
Right. And of course, with that, Rohin, once again, thank you so much for your time for spending this. I believe it's heading to noon for you in India.
Yeah, it's like
Afternoon.
almost yeah, it's afternoon. We are
So
at
I wish you a
2:30.
wonderful lunch ahead, whereas me, we will
Thank you
be
so
heading
much.
out for dinner pretty soon.
Yeah,
So once again, to all the
yeah.
audience who is joining us this afternoon, thank you so much for your time in joining our webinar. And of course, do remember to scan the QR code. But of course, if you're watching this on a mobile device, not too worrying. At the end, we'll play you a video, and in it, there's a URL. Just go to a URL for you to type in your inquiries to us. And of course, the product specialist will then get in touch with you. Either you can schedule a demonstration, you want to know more information on the products, or even just any general inquiry in regards to BK Fusion. Any last words from you, Rohin, before we bid goodbyes to our audience?
uh, I'd like to thank BMAC for organizing this wonderful event. And any questions on uh, BK Fusion, please reach out to us. We would be happy to share more information on this. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Rohin. The honors on us. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in our next webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.